Hello everyone, this is Abdullah. Welcome back to this Quest Talent page. On the request of Quest Talent, I have I'm delivering the lecture there on this page. Today's lecture is all about job interviews because we think that job interviews are very important, because after we are done with our respective degrees, students hunt for their jobs. As far as the interview skills are concerned, and today's this session will be focused on interview skills especially, and there are so many areas where we can hunt, and in this regards, let's have a session today. But before I start my session, I would like everyone, especially all the students of Qaid Awam University, to be the part of this session, and you can also ask your questions here in the comments, and you can share this video as well, and you can mention the people as well, right? So I'm trying my level best to make this session interactive, so that you can make the most of this session and all the students concerned can benefit the most. So to begin with the job interviews, the areas that are focused in job interviews are, for example, the very first question they ask. These are the areas where I'm first highlighting those areas, then I'll be speaking about each area one by one, right? The very first thing interview panel can ask for is the introducing yourself, number one. Number two, the thing that matters the most is your confidence level. We can call it the confidence, your language, and the relevance of your interviewing questions, and then your body language, right? So there are so many other things also that we would like to highlight in this session. Now, to begin with, the very first thing that you have to be ready for in job interviews is you have to be in time. If you are not in time, that can have a very negative impact on you. You will be quite hesitated, number one, and you will be under pressure. Why? Because you don't know what is going to happen with you, right? First, once you're coming earlier than the appointed time, this is going to be a plus point for you, in the sense that you can somehow get ready for the interview, right? And you can analyze the situation here as well in the interview, right? Number one, be on time. And number two is you have to be you have to have a proper dressing, right? Such a dressing that should be representable, such a dressing that should be very impressive, such a dressing that should be quite official, right? You're not supposed to be such dressing that should be quite rough, right? And in that sense, you should be giving giving a proper look, right? As if you are going to appear in an official interview, because job interview is what that can secure your future, right? It's sad that job interviews are very important, because they are more than your career, right? I have seen so many people, so many aspirants who struggle in job interviews. Why? Because there are so many anomalies, there are so many irregularities they follow, right? As a result, what happens? Failure is a result. Why is it so? I have seen people repeatedly failing in their job interviews, because it can be they're not good at their communication skills. Another aspect can be they are not practicing for the job interviews, or they are not getting ready before they appear in the interview, right? So the number two was dressing. And number three is you should be very well prepared. So when you're coming for the job, when you're coming for the interview, you should come prepared. come prepared in the sense that you have to be ready for everything. Everything everything means you can expect such questions, you can expect such discussions that you have never gone in your life, right? In the sense you should come prepared, right? And now once you have entered the place where the interview is being conducted, right, you will certainly be facing the interview panel. Interview panel is what you most of the time sound to be afraid of, you sound to be scared. Now when you appear before interview panel, you should try to be quite relaxed, try to be quite comfortable. The more you are comfortable, the better will be the interview. If you give a hesitated look, then this will be quite this can result in very bad what we say, that can have a bad impact on you especially, because you have to be there, you have to face the interview panel very confidently in the sense, because there are questions you have gone through, or there are so many questions you don't know about, or there are so many other questions, they require common sense. So these are the typical questions, and you have to get ready to face all these questions. Sometimes there are discussions, sometimes there are challenging situations, and you are what because I said you have to come prepared and you have to get ready. Getting ready means you have to face this situation very confidently, and for this, confidence is the key thing. And now number four is prepare your interview. See everyone, I welcome you all, and I'm quite pleased to find you here around, and we would like to make this session very interactive, and that is why I am asking everyone to be here, right? If you are here, mention a comment here in the comment box that is given below, right? So that we may go ahead, and I would like everyone to ask me questions also, and we will have an interactive session also in which I will be asking you to be very active, and your active participation is what I need, or this session is needed. Okay, so the very now the very first thing they ask you in the interview is what they ask you to introduce yourself. Introducing yourself is the very first question, and as it is said that the first impression is the last impression. When this question is being asked, you have to prepare very well for this question. Introduce yourself. When, as far as this question is concerned, introducing yourself, you should tell something about yourself, right? You should talk about your background, right? And you should talk about your education also, and you should talk about your current position, what are you doing these days, and your education as well I talked about, and your potential areas, and then somehow you should talk about your weaknesses also, right? So now, how to prepare for that question? So when you are preparing for this first question, introducing yourself, you have to first of all, you have to write this whole question on the piece of paper, number one, and number two, you should practice this question, right? After you have written this question, you should practice this question. And number three, you should stand in front of a mirror and practice over there, and then you should judge yourself, analyze yourself, that how are you performing in front of people or in front of a mirror while answering or responding to this question. This is really important, because the more you practice, the better you can express. And what happens most of the time, it has been observed also, even if you are very well prepared, what happens, you appear in front of interview panel, what happens, you forget about everything, right? So you have practiced a lot, and your preparation is very comprehensive. Again, you forget about everything as soon as you appear in front of interview panel. Why? Because you feel hesitated. Why? Because there is certainly pressure from their side also. In case of a very first interview of your career, it is also very challenging for you, and you find yourself in your critical position. And that's why it is only practice that can help you out, or it is the only practice that can lead you towards the success, right? So when you're going to prepare yourself for the very first question that has to be asked, that every interviewer asks this question, introducing yourself. So for this question, as I said, write down the script first and practice on that. Stand in front of a mirror, perform over there, or sometimes these days there are Android phones, right? You may record this, or you may record yourself, right? Once you have recorded yourself, and then you may analyze, you may find out what is the good area, or where are you performing well. This is how, that can lead you towards the successful, what we say, successful part of the very first question, that is preparing, that is how to introduce yourself, right? And then number 2 is thank you very much, everyone. I'm really happy to see your comments here. Right. So the very first, this was the very first part that I said. It was introducing yourself, right? When you are introducing yourself, certainly you have to talk about yourself. You have to talk about your background. You have to talk about your education as well, and your current status, means what are you doing these days, right? Yes, you're right, Ehsan, that it's a practice that can make the man perfect, and it is the practice that can ensure your success in the interview also, right? And number 2 is practice your interview entirely, means completely. Once you are preparing for the interview, try one thing. This is what I would like to focus on, I would like to emphasize on. That is the practical part. You have to be quite practical. Many students or many candidates, they only focus on reading, or they only focus on hunting for the material. That's fine, but interview is what, over there you have to provide yourself. You have to present yourself in front of the interview panel, what you are. Sometimes interview can go for 5 minutes. Sometimes interviews are very extended. They can go for 10 minutes, 15 minutes even. They can be extended to 20 minutes also. And over there, how can you perform once you haven't practiced? That is why I would like you to go through the practical steps. You have to practice more, practice as much as you can. So for this practical part, what you need to do is that, as I said, stand in front of a mirror, perform, start your performances, right? And show yourself how can you perform. Now over there in front of a mirror, you can watch yourself. You can watch yourself perfectly, how your hands are going on, how is your body walking, how is your eye contact, yeah? So everything is quite clear and quite visible once you stand in front of a mirror. Or in other cases, in other ways, you should get your lecture, get your whole interview recorded. So whatever the questions you think can be the part of your interview, so prepare for those questions and then get the entire interview recorded. And then after it is recorded, send that interview to your seniors, your teachers, your mentors, those you think are your guide. Send these interview clips to those people. so that they may give you a quite comprehensive feedback. Feedback is what that matters the most. Feedback is what that can give you a lot to learn and a lot to understand as well, so that you may improve your interview practices. And now I am giving you a task. That task is all about the interview. Now what do you think? So at this stage I think that not many of you would have gone for the interviews, but again your if not job interviews, then your practical interviews or your other academic interviews, you must have gone through these interviews, right? Now what do you think? Now everybody, you have to answer me here. What do you think? What difficulties do you face in interviews? What are the difficulties or what are the challenges you face in interviews? So this is your task. I'm giving you 2 minutes, and I will be noticing your responses also. So you have to tell me what difficulties or what problems you face during interviews. Yes, what do you think? What are the challenges or what are the difficulties you face in the interviews? Now anything you face, any problem, any difficulty you face during interview, you must mention here in the comment. Yes, I'm giving you 2 minutes. You are given 2 minutes. So you have to talk about the difficulties so that we may address those difficulties or the problems you encounter during your interviews, right? So what do you think? What are the difficulties you face? Right. So you have to talk about the difficulties or the problems you face during interviews. Yes, everyone. Then I'll be moving ahead to the other parts of the interview today. So first, I want to know from your side that what are the difficulties or the problems you face. Any difficulty you face during interviews. Right. So you get very nervous. That's fine. Yes, this is quite natural, right? How confident you are. Again, before you appear in front of interview panel, you're quite serious. You're quite nervous, right? You feel as if you're shivering like a fish. You feel that something is going to happen, right? So this is something that is quite unavoidable, something that you cannot avoid, right? Okay, so what else do you face or do you feel once you are in the interview? Right, when the interview asks a question and we don't know the answer of that, and then we go confused, and the result is that your confidence level gets very low, right? Yes, that's fine. Yes, sometimes, as I said, not all the time you're asked such questions you know the answers of, right? So not all the time, because there are certainly such questions that are based on the common sense, or sometimes there are such questions that are out of your course also. So these are quite confusing, right? And over there, what happens, for example, if you fail to answer those questions, you get disappointed, right? So this disappointment is carried on. As a result, what happens, the disappointment or the confusion, this dominates you throughout the interview. As a result, you fail to perform. As a result, you fail to prove your worth. As a result, you fail to secure what you intend to. So this is what this results in quite confusing, right? So yes, depression. Okay, depression is what yes, you're right. In order to avoid this depression, people try various sources, but no way at all, right? Okay, when we enter the interview room, we always get nervous to make eye to eye contact with the interviewer. How to make it balanced our emotional feelings? Yes, I'm as far as your question is concerned, I'm answering right now. For this, what you need to do is that you have to be quite relaxed, right? Be quite relaxed, calm. If you are quite relaxed and calm, then what happens, at least you can say something, right? So this depression or this nervous type of situation continues hardly for 30 seconds or a minute, right? And this is only the matter of the question number one. As I said, introducing yourself is the part of an interview that matters the most. If you prepare well and if you practice a lot on this part of an interview part, then and you can do it successfully, this will result in a positive impression. As I said, if your first impression is very positive, then you will be quite relaxed and you will be quite comfortable, and you will be ready, or you will be inviting the other questions from the interviewer. So that is why you should be quite comfortable and calm also, and for that purpose you have to prepare and practice the very first question. Okay, so yes, hesitation, yes, this is there, and lack of understanding the questions properly due to nervousness. That's right. For that purpose, what you need to do is that you have to be quite attentive when you are in front of interview panel, because you don't know who is going to ask you the question. Either it is the chairman of the interview panel to ask the questions, or it is the expert, because there are experts also, there is a chairman, there are people who know, understand, or observe you psychologically also, and that's why you have to be very attentive, right? Attentive in the sense, listen well, listen properly. Once you're listening to those questions properly, then you can understand them. If you can understand the questions, you can answer them well, depending on your preparation and depending on your confidence level. So in order to answer the questions well, and in order to avoid this nervous behavior on your part, you have to be quite calm, but you have to practice well for the very first part, that is how to introduce yourself. And then as I said, it is to listen to the questions very properly, right? Okay, what other problems you face? So what are the other problems you face during the interview? Because interview is quite challenging, everybody can pass, almost everybody can pass this screening test or written test for any job, right? You can find so many people, in thousands even, they qualify their written part, right? And once they appear for the interview, it's quite challenging, right? It's quite decisive also, in the sense, those who are quite competent, those who practice a lot, right, and they have command on their questions, and they can cope up with the situation and the challenge. And because interview, as I said, is of course quite challenging, and facing the interview panel and those questions, and sometimes such questions you have never gone for, right? So yes, this is quite comprehensive, and this needs a lot of practice also. Okay, so what other problems you face? Students forget their answers. Yes, that's right, they forget about. As I said, because it's a pressure, or sometimes it's the very first time you go for the interview, you appear in front of interview panel, and that's why you forget about, right? Okay, yes, as I said, before you enter, you have to see who are the interview members and what is the interview panel what interview panel comprises of. Okay, and fine. And then as I said, you have to be quite cool, you have to be quite calm also, and this depends on the frequency of your practice or the quality of your practice that can matter the most. Fine. This was the very first interactive task, and yes, I'm very happy with your responses, and so you should be also very active in other tasks also that I'm bringing you, because these things can help you out even if you are in the first year, second year, third year, or even in the final year, or even you are the pass out students, right? Again, this can be quite helping, because today is the talk or the session that is only about interviews, and in next session, what I will do, it's quite interesting in the sense, I will be asking the people who are ready to be interviewed, and that interview will also be live here, and I will be asking you questions, all right, live here. Anyone, or let's say, let's make two, right? Two students, two people on in every session. I will interview them, I will be giving them feedback. Again, that will be live as well, and everybody will be watching. So this session, for that purpose, I think is really important, right? And if you want to appear in the next interview session, and so you have to be very active for that. Okay, anyways, so preparing your interview, and then practicing the interview questions, right? And now number 3 is answering your questions confidently. If you're more confident, see, sometimes what happens, as I said, because the nature of questions differs. Sometimes you're asked the questions you know the answers of, number 1. You're asked the questions you do not know the answers of, and you're asked the questions that are based on common sense, and there are such other questions, they are quite tricky. These are quite technical answers. You don't know how to answer, you don't know how to start your answer, right? And for these answers, what you need to do, the very first thing, now the most important thing is your confidence, because there are two things. Number 1 is confidence, number 2 is the knowledge you have. So the thing that matters the most is your the confidence level. So you have to answer the questions confidently in the sense, okay, you can share this video, because I cannot find any option here of sharing. So Ehsan or other people who are there, they can also share this video, so that many people can watch and they can be the part of this session as well. So answering the questions confidently, you have to be quite confident in the sense, for example, whatever the questions comes from an expert, you should be very attentive, listen to the question properly. After you listen to the question, understand the question well, and then try to answer quite comprehensively. Be confident, be calm, and then try to answer the question exactly. Do not beat about the bush, do not go irrelevant, do not talk of which is not concerned with the question being asked. Okay, so you should be quite relevant, and your answers should be quite well structured and well composed. Even if the answers are very short ones, even if the answers are one word answers, try to answer in sentences, but those sentences should be quite relevant, right? So the confidence is the key thing. And another important thing here I would like to talk about is your eye contact. When that question is being asked from the chairman of the interview, so your eye contact has to be, or has towards the chairman, right? Or if that question is being asked by any other expert, so your eye contact has to be towards the interviewer, right? Whosoever asks you the question, then your response or your eye contact or your facial direction has to be towards the the person who is asking you the question. If your answer is quite general, so then you can turn around, right? You can turn around means you can watch everyone or every member of this interview panel, because this means that you want to draw everybody's attention towards yourself, right? So in that sense, your confidence level is very key, because confidence level is what that matters the most, because confidence level is what, there are so many people who keep watching your confidence. Sometimes what happens, due to lapse of sometimes you answer mistakenly, or sometimes what happens, you forget about your answer, sometimes your the question is half answered. But in this situation, the thing that matters the most is in this situation, the thing that matters the most is what? Your confidence level. How much confident you were, how did you, and how are you responding now, and how are you answering this question, how did you start your answer, and how did you conclude your answer. This is what that matters the most. Okay, so as far as your question is concerned, introduction should be brief or lengthy ones. See, you have to talk about yourself, your background, your education, right? And the special qualities in you, your expertise, your potential areas, and then your weaknesses, right? And your future ambitions or your future vision also, right? This thing. And you must, in order to psychologically hit the panel and to leave a very positive impression of yours, you should also tell them your qualities, that why should that company or that agency or that institution should hire you. So you should include this thing in your interview part also, the very first question, so that they should be quite impressed the way you introduce yourself, right? Okay, number 2, answering confidently. And now let's move to another one, that is practice interview etiquette. If you don't know the answer of the question being asked, then what should we do? Should we admit that we don't know, or just try to give the answer? See, if you don't know the answer of a question, certainly you should not beat about the bush. You should say, well, I haven't gone through this part of the question, right? So this can leave a very good impression. Other than saying or beating about the bush or giving excuses, fine, you should acknowledge this. Okay, fine. And now the practicing interview etiquettes. Interview etiquettes are, for example, as soon as you interview, as soon as you enter the interview panel or interview room, you should give gestures, greetings, right? Greetings are, if somebody is shaking hands with you, right, you should have a firm shake. So shake your hands firmly. So if anyone who is shaking, if there's no such thing, or in case of female interviewers, no need to go for that. And then the etiquette, another etiquette is, for example, you have to sit very properly. Do not lean against a chair, for example, right? Or sit straight, sit properly, right? And your posture also matters the most. Your posture. And then it is the gestures. If there is a question you feel very comfortable, or the requirement of the question is, for example, it's a very good question, right? Very good question in the sense you feel comfortable, then you can smile also. If there is a disgusting or an irritating situation, you can be very annoyed at that, and this should be quite visible from your gestures also. Sometimes if it is something or some result or some statistics is quite surprising, you should show surprise. You should the signs of surprising should be very visible on your facial expressions that we call gestures, right? So in that sense, yes, you're right. So we have to follow the the interview etiquettes as well. And another thing that comes under the domain of interview etiquettes is that you should not what we say you should not be very stubborn. So in the sense you should not insist, right? For example, you know that your answer is quite fine, you know you answered quite correctly. Again it says you did not satisfy me. Again it said you could not convince me. Okay, fine. Do not get it so much seriously, because this can irritate the experts as well. So yes, so you have to follow these things certainly. Okay, if candidate talks about himself, his background, current status, strength, weaknesses, then it will be lengthy. See, you have to prepare precisely in the sense it can hardly be of 2 to 3 minutes. At least you should start yourself or start telling about about yourself to the interview panel just for 2 or 3 minutes. It should be there. You know, in my case, for example, when I appeared in front of the interview panel, I remember that I had practiced a lot whenever I got a leisure time. I practiced it, you know, I reminded. So the things were on my fingertips. So once the things are on your fingertips and they are quite precisely narrated, that can convince the interview panel. And sometimes in this part of interview, that is introduction, you can bring some stuff with you as well. For example, your achievements, for example, a book that you have written, sometimes an article, or sometimes the collection of stories, right, that you have compiled, or anything, or your articles published in the magazines at university or the magazines of research. You know, these are quite plus points, and that must be there. So yes, interview cannot be lengthy, but you have to be very careful in the sense you need to make it quite precise, right? And now I am giving you another task that is about, now you should tell me honestly that why do you lack confidence in interview? Why do you lack confidence in interview? Yes. What is the reason that most of the time and majority of the participants, aspirants, students lack confidence in front of interview panel? Why do they lack confidence? Yes, this is the question. This is the task. Why do you lack confidence in the interview? Or why do you fail to be confident in an interview? So this is a question. I would like everyone to respond me here actively so that we may go ahead. Yes. Why do we lack confidence in the interview? Yes, you are given 2 minutes, and afterwards I'll be going ahead. Yes, why do you lack confidence in interview? What are the reasons? You should tell me the reasons, please. Yes. What are the reasons that you lack confidence in the interview? So this is the task. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Yes, you have to tell me the reasons. Okay, lack of practice. That's right. You're absolutely right. See, it is the interview, and you say interview is what that can fulfill your dreams, right? Interview is what that can materialize what you had intended or what you had dreamed for in your entire life, because interview is what that we call the destination, right? So certainly for this destination, certainly to grab this position, because there are so many people they rush after, and we are living in such a country where there are political sources as well, right? And people one way or the other try to grab that job, and if there is lack of practice, yes, certainly that can lead to the disappointment, and for that purpose we should practice the most, okay? And that can ensure your success, and practice is what every interviewee must go for before the interview. I can remember for my job interviews I practice a lot. I stood in front of a mirror, I got recordings of my interviews, I sent those recordings to my seniors, to my mentors, for the critical feedback on their part. And as a result, what I did, as soon as I got those critical feedbacks, I brought improvisation. I improved and I followed each tips. I followed YouTube also. That's also quite resourceful. That's quite helping as well. So lack of confidence is quite discouraging, right? Lack of preparation. See, it's an interview. You have to get ready. As I said, the very first thing is that you have to be well prepared, right? You have to be in time, and you have to be well dressed, and you have to be well prepared, because these are the three things that must be there. If there is lack of practice, lack of preparation, what will you do over there? So certainly you will be beating about the bush, and that can result in utter failure. Okay, language barrier. Oh yes, that's right. What do you mean by language barrier? Language barrier in the sense, yes, it can be English. English can be the language barrier, because over there, because officials are quite interviews are quite official. For that purpose, you have to be really good at your language. I mean English, right? English is a tool. English is a tool that can be quite helping for you, especially in interviews. So language. So you should work on your language, that is English. Even if you are an artist, you're a philosopher, so whatever you are, or whatever the discipline you are going after, or whatever the degree you're pursuing, so you must invest in learning English, right? Okay. So lack of thinking and confidence. Thinking in what sense? Means you don't think in interview, or you don't think about questions, then you answer. If this is the case, then the results are quite expected. You must, as I said, you must be attentive, right? Must be attentive in the sense, listen to the questions properly, think about, understand the questions, and then think about. Certainly, whatever the question is, you conceptualize that question. After the question is conceptualized, then you have to answer accordingly, right? And for answering, you must remember this thing. This is a very important thing. For answering, you need language. You need communication skills. communication skills sometimes are more important than the knowledge of your subject, than the knowledge of your answer. So communication skill you must be good at. Okay, yes, you're right that poor communication skills, they always lead to your failure, right? So you must be good at. And the thing that we can't do this, yes, because it is you expose yourself in such a way that you're quite helpless, that, and that's why they develop this sort of understanding about you. Otherwise, if you're performing very confidently and then you're answering accordingly, then I don't think that they can think like that, right? So this perception is developed because of your poor response, right? So in order to respond positively and relevantly, you have to practice, right? And you have to improve your communication skills as well. Low confidence, that's right, confidence level also matters the most, right? Okay, fine. I got quite comprehensive responses on task number 2. And now the another thing that I want to focus or highlight on is eye contact. Eye contact matters the most in interview. So eye contact in the sense, see, once you are talking to the interviewer, your eyes should not be lowered down. You should not lower down eyes here, or sometimes you keep watching upwards, right? Like that. So both these things are quite bad. That can result in poor outcomes, right? So do not lower your sight nor keep looking upwards, right? Rather, your eye contact has to be towards the interviewer. Whosoever is asking you the question, your eye contact has to be there. So see, sometimes what happens, for example, because I can give different messages. Sometimes the sense of satisfaction lies in the eyes, that you can understand after and this never means that you should stare in the eyes of your interviewers, but eye contact has to be there. Eye contact means so that the interviewer must understand you are responding, him or her, right? And yes, this can give the positive gesture. And as I said earlier, that if it is the general answer and you want to draw the attention of everybody, then your eye should keep turning around so that they may understand, and the perception should go that you want to talk to them individually or one by one. So this is how the importance of eye contact is, right? You should be very active listener, is a sad, because listening is very important here. Important in the sense until unless you listen to them properly, you cannot understand the question. If you fail to understand the question, you will certainly fail to answer the question as well. So listening plays a key role here. Okay, and see, another thing is, you should get ready for follow-up questions. Follow-up questions is, for example, okay, introduce yourself. See, this is the very first question, like as I say, tell me something about yourself, right? Now you have told us something about yourself. So okay, so when you have told something about yourself, what happens? For example, from your talk, an interviewer can ask a question. So this sort of question can be a question from your talk. So the question from your talk is called follow-up question, right? You should get ready for follow-up questions also. For example, if you're telling something about your childhood, all right, when I was a child, when I was a student, or when I was quite young, I used to play in the streets, under scorching beams, or whatever the circumstances, whatever the weather conditions were, I used to play cricket a lot, all the time, every time, cricket, right? And once I was back from the streets or the playground, on TV again, I was on the only one channel that was sports, right? PTV sports or tennis sports. This was the channel I used to be, fond of. So they can ask you the question from this as well. What was it that led you towards sport? So these are follow-up questions. Similarly, there can be follow-up questions in other questions. For example, they are asking the questions from from your subject, from that is a general information, or the questions of common sense, or the questions about your career. For example, they are asking you, where do you find yourself in 5 years, right? So this can be a question. So from these questions, they can ask other questions. The question within the question is called the follow-up question. So you should be ready for the follow-up questions as well. Yes, you must believe in yourself. That should be in every person. Yes, strong belief, because believing in yourself, okay, this must be there, but this should be on the basis of your preparation. If you are well prepared, then you should believe in yourself, right? If you haven't prepared at all and you have just straight away come and appeared in the interview, so believing in yourself is quite useless, right? Okay, fine. If you don't know the answer, what should we do? As I said, if you don't know the answer, you should say, well, I haven't gone through this area, right? So you can say like this. Fine. Okay, now I'm giving you a task number 3, that is of 2 minutes. That is, why do you forget about all despite a good preparation? Sometimes what happens, you have done a quite good preparation. So with this good preparation, you are there, you certainly expect your success. But when you appear in front of interview panel, you forget about everything. So why do you forget about everything? Even though you have prepared a lot, you have practiced a lot, you have practiced and prepared a lot, but when you appear in front of an interview panel, why do you forget about everything? Why? Now this is a task. You should answer me here in the comments. Why do you forget about everything despite a good preparation? Why? Yes, this is the last task, and I would like everyone to be active and to respond to this task and speak your mind, your experience also, because you have gone through, and we are trying to help you out, and we are trying to get ready for the interview as well, because as I said, there will be a practical part as well on this session. Okay, so the question is, why do you forget about all? You have a lot of stuff. You were quite outstanding student in the class, but in the interview panel you utterly failed. So why do you forget about? Why? Okay, if question is about work experience and we were inexperienced, what answer should be there? See, you have to read stuff in advance, so you can imagine. If it is about the experience, you can clearly say that you are inexperienced, you have gone through the experience of this, but again you can tell them your vision as well. Again you can tell them what you want to do. Again you can tell them what services you can deliver. You can tell them what services you offer. You can deliver what expertise you have. You can very clearly that what sort of change you can bring about. At least you can talk about this as well, right? So this can be covered in their question, because it's a reality. You have no experience, and certainly you won't be telling them, but however you can tell them your future vision and your services and the change and the contribution you can bring about in that particular institution. You can talk about it, right? So nervousness, fine. Yes, it's a nervousness that leads you to forgetfulness. You forget about everything, right? And cowardice, right? Yes, you're right. And sometimes you feel scared. Yes, there are students who feel quite afraid, quite scared. They do not want to share anything. This is a sort of abnormal behavior on their part. This could be a psychological disorder. Yes, this can lead to utter failure. You're right. Okay. Tension, yes, tension is there, because in written paper you may write down the things, right? That's fine, and that does not lead to that anxiety as the interview does, because you have to produce something on your part. You have to speak it out. You have to not only speaking out, but you have to convince, and you have to take them into confidence as well, because this is the biggest thing. And for this you need a lot, as I said. Okay, because of anxiety, tension. Yes, you're right. Yes, we are already in anxiety. Fine. Fear of failure. I must tell you, when you are on any adventure, you must be quite firm. There must be a firm belief. You must say, even if you fall down once, twice, thrice, many times, you keep falling down, but again you should stand up, and you should give self encouragement, that you must say, I am the one, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. This might lead you towards a confidence. You must believe in yourself. You must believe in your abilities, and this is how you can convince the people. Because, as I said, for the interview there are two most important things, and the most important thing is your communication. Your communication skills should be very effective. Even if you are lacking knowledge, is matter is your communication skills, right? So communication skills must be there, of what I say, that they should be of a good standard, so that you may take the interview panel into the confidence, and you have to win, right? Rather, I would say you have to snatch that one. Okay, so you have to snatch that particular job, because there are so many candidates, and there are political sources also. This is how you can do that. Low confidence, yes, that's right. Sometimes people I can give you my example. Whenever I appear in any exam, I do not feel well, right? I fall victim to what we say fever most of the time, right? Fever is what I suffer the most during these situations. Yes, this happens, and as a result of this fever, our other untoward or unpleasant circumstances, they lead you to low confidence. And low confidence is that is quite displeasing, and that's quite what we say discouraging, and that does not result into your success. Nervousness and low self-belief, yes, that's right, you're right. Okay, sometimes because of overconfidence. See, you're right, but In overconfidence, you remember a lot. All right, you tell them, even such things that are not asked, and you keep boasting about yourself. You keep beating about the bush also. You keep telling them such thing that is quite irrelevant, and whatever the requirement of an answer is, you speak above that. You speak beyond that level, right? So you have to, what I say, you have to calm down, right? So answer whatever is required. So this sort of response is very positive and quite convincing as well. Okay, so this is there. And finally, clarity. So there must be clarity of your tone and your pronunciation. Certainly they have to be very clear, and you must not mispronounce the words. And one thing that I would like to highlight here is that you should be very enthusiastic. You should be very energetic. Give energy, put extra energy while answering the question. This never means, even for example, if 2 or 3 people are there, and you should talk to them in quite high frequency. No, this is quite disgusting. You speak according to the level of audience. Level of audience means, yes, you should understand it, that what voice can be perfect, or what voice can be ideal one, right? Again, that has to be clear. Your voice has to be louder and clearer, so that it should be audible for those interviewers, right? And clarity is said, and then there has to be energy also. So this is all about it. So today's session was all about interview skills we have talked about, and in the next session, it will be on next Tuesday after a week, and I will be asking you people to I can nominate anyone, or you can get yourself nominated, and you will be visible here on the screen. You will be interviewed. I will be asking you some questions, and then I'll be giving you feedback here on live, right? I will be taking any two people will be conducted live interviews, right? Whosoever is willing. So your consent is very important for that. So this will be an experience, and then on the basis of your interviews, I'll be giving you the feedback as well. If you like this session, I would request you all to share this video, so that people can make the most of this session, right? So thank you everyone. Again, if you have any other question, you can leave your questions in comments. Thank you very much. See you again for the next session.